What is good, everybody? Welcome into, I think, what is my favorite in-season content to make, and that is my positional tier maker videos. Today, I'm going to be ranking 138 NFL wide receivers into tiers. I think I covered just about every relevant wide receiver there. You guys will have to let me know in the comments down below if I missed anybody of note. If I did, I will try to get back to you in the comments which tier I would place them in. But before we do get started here, I wanted to detail what my tiers are. This certainly isn't going to be as simple as A, B, C, D. I go pretty dang thorough with these tier maker videos. I really try to frame this by the way that NFL teams think about these wide receivers, kind of the pecking order in how you would look at these guys in terms of team construction, how you would value these guys and how they would play on the field. So at the very top, these are your workhorses, right? Your alphas, the elite alphas. I get pretty nitpicky at the very top just because as much respect as I'm going to have for the guys that end up in the alpha tier, there's still some guys, spoiler alert, like a Jamar Chase that I still would even say is a tier above those types of guys. Then you have your true number ones. These are still workhorse wide receivers, but maybe players that haven't quite had the production, dominance, call it all-pro type of seasons of those players in your top couple of tiers there. But definitely players that, if you're talking about team construction, you're definitely happy with them as your best wide receiver. Then you have a crop below that, guys that are still very, very good wide receivers that, at least for now, you can definitely survive with them as your number one. But you might have your eyes peeled in a league flooded with wide receiver talent to try and get someone in those top three tiers. And maybe this guy becomes more of a number two type of guy. True number twos are next. These are your true Robin types of wide receivers, guys that have really established themselves as high quality wide receivers, but do have some sort of physical limitations that I'm not really projecting them to climb any higher than this. And then I have the prospect with realistic number one potential. This category is a little bit more open-ended, but essentially these are like your legitimate superstar prospects that you're hoping realistically can get into one of those top three tiers. They don't really fit the category of a true number two guy. They don't really fit the category of can survive as your number one guy. They kind of stand alone above our next category here, but not quite as established as these other guys. So that's going to be a fun tier. And then this is where like the layout of the tier maker website, shout out tier maker, by the way. And I do have this template up there if you guys want to go and make your own lists. But this is where it does get a little bit more limited because there's going to be guys, for example, at the top of our slot or gadget tier that I think are better wide receivers than someone that's maybe in the middle of the possession guy tier. So just know that, like, other than these tiers, you're going to be able to really follow, like, okay, this guy up here is number two, and this guy down here is my number 17 wide receiver if you want to count it out. It will get a little bit more muddied in this category, but I do like to split these guys up just as we're talking about, like, team construction and stuff. This is a category of wide receiver that aren't number ones, aren't number twos, but they're clearly starting caliber wide receivers, and they fill a specific role in that offense as you're looking to construct a group of complementary skill sets. And there's really three core categories of those wide receivers. You have your possession guys. These, to me, are your route runners, can be guys that even line up as your X wide receiver. Reliable, tough, smart wide receivers, oftentimes really good route runners, but you're talking about working kind of that intermediate part of the field first and foremost, and probably pretty good in the short game as well. Vertical threat, very self-explanatory there. And then slot or gadget guys, these are going to be obviously guys that work in the short game, or the gadget guys that are really good with the ball in their hands. I just kind of lumped those two categories together for simplicity's sake. But just know, out of these yellow-coded tiers, the most important thing is these are still like quality wide receivers that you're very comfortable with as one of your three starting wide receivers. Then you have guys that are ideally going to be your number four target in the offense. And this is the category where I asked at the beginning of the video, if you think I forgot anybody, let me know. There's going to be a handful of wide receivers that didn't make this video that would go into this category that, just to keep things sane here with already doing 138 wide receivers, you can probably imagine this is where a lot of other wide receivers will go. But the main reason I wanted to include this tier is that this is going to include a lot of guys that are being asked to be as much as number 2 guys or certainly starting caliber players. I wanted to include it to say like, hey, this team has a starter that probably shouldn't really be in that category. And I said, ideally, you're number 4 in the offense. This can be a starting wide receiver, one of your 3 wide receivers, and you're actually okay with him in that role if you also have either like a fantastic pass catching running back or a tight end that's really involved in the passing game. And then this guy's like the 4th most targeted in your offense. So he might be a wide receiver 3, but you want him to be number 4 in the pecking order is really what I'm going for there. And then we're getting into the prospects there. And I wanted to split this up just for conversation's sake. Prospects that I'm buying, that I kind of believe in the future of, or prospects that I'm selling, guys that I maybe wouldn't be projecting to climb up as we move forward. So there are your tiers. Thank you for hearing me out on that, and let's go ahead and get started. We're just going to be going alphabetically with how it feeds me here. So we're going to start with Adam Thielen. Don't need to have too much of a long conversation here. I still view him as a 1 of 3 slot guy. The Minnesota offense hasn't really been good enough to support a guy of this category in terms of volume and production right now, but Thielen still impressed me on tape last year in Carolina, and if the Vikings can get things going a little bit more, I think he can play a little bit better. Then we've got Adonai Mitchell. He's definitely in one of these prospect categories. I absolutely believe in the physical talent, and the highlights he's made are insane, but I'm actually selling him for a couple reasons. There's a little bit missing with him. Never really produced in college. We've seen some just kind of boneheaded mistakes from him, not just the game a couple of weeks ago where he kind of cost his team the game. That was the Rams game, right? But also the opportunity here is just not all that great for him to continue to climb up these rankings. So I do believe in the physical talent. If he did start to climb, it wouldn't stun me. But if you force me to decide, am I buying or selling Adonai Mitchell, I'd probably say I'm selling him. A.J. Brown, all right, we can climb up here. He, to me, if you asked me in the offseason, I would have absolutely said elite alpha in that top tier. Definitely some concerns with how he's looking this year. Just doesn't quite have the burst that I think we've seen from him in years past. Hasn't quite been the dominant playmaker that we've come to know and love with A.J. Brown. I hate to do this, but at this place in time, I think I have to say he's a cut below the receivers that I know we're going to place in that elite alpha tier, but I still absolutely view him as a, premium alpha talent in the league. Okay, Alec Pierce. He might end up at the very top of this 1 of 3 vertical threat. He might be the kind of poster boy for this type of wide receiver. He has really developed nicely, ton of speed. He has really stepped up in some big moments for the Colts as of late. He wanted to get traded this offseason because he didn't think Daniel Jones maybe was going to be able to utilize his vertical ability in this offense. And they absolutely have. He's headed for an underrated payday in the league, and he is, I think, one of the underrated players in the league, frankly, but he probably isn't someone I'm looking at as like a true number 2 or anything like that. This is the perfect description for him. All right, Amon-Ra St. Brown. This is one of the reasons I was so excited to make this video, because someone like Amon-Ra and a couple other wide receivers in a similar skill set have shown me that even if you are a slot wide receiver, and I know he'll step outside when they're in 12 personnel because there's only 2 wide receivers on the field, he'll register some snaps as a outside wide receiver, and I get that, but he is a slot wide receiver. In years past, I would have said that guy can't really be a true alpha. In the past, I want guys that can stretch the field vertically, step outside, beat number 1 corners from the perimeter. But someone like Amon-Ra St. Brown has just been so efficient for his offense and just makes so many big, impressive plays too. We're in this modern era of the NFL too, where it's all about attacking the middle of the field and using pre-snap motion to get a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown into space and into space quickly. I'm ready to say Amon-Ra St. Brown belongs in the alpha tier, and frankly, it's hard to put him below A.J. Brown at this point in time. I still think extremely high of A.J. Brown, and I'm cautiously optimistic that dude is still in there. I'm not quite going to put Amon-Ra above him, but I can't really fault you if you did. And by the way, this is going to be ranked from left to right inside these tiers if you couldn't gather that already. Before I do go to the next player, if you guys are enjoying the video, I do ask if you could take just a second to hit that like button down below. It's a free and easy way to support my channel. It tells YouTube to push this video out to other NFL diehards just like you. And of course, make sure you subscribe because this is only the first of many positional tier makers videos that I plan on making, and you're not going to want to miss those. All right, Andre Iosivas. We can move pretty quickly through this one. Prospect I'm selling. A lot of drops, just hasn't really developed in Cincinnati. I would put him below Adonai Mitchell as well. Same thing with Arian Smith. Probably a prospect I'm selling. 4th round pick for the Jets. A lot of speed, field stretching ability. That's why he gets drafted, but some of the worst hands you'll ever seen from a prospect, and we know it's not the best existing infrastructure for a guy to contribute as a vertical threat. I would put him probably above Andre Iosivas, though, just because I'm still fascinated by his separation skills. Okay, Brandon Cooks, at this point, ideally would be the number 4 part of your offense. Regressing veteran there. Brandon Ayuk. I think we got to put Ayuk in the true number 1 guy category until we see more. I think if he doesn't have the same juice as he used to, he would probably start to come down maybe to be like a true number 2, hopefully not any worse than that. What he did before he earned that contract before the injury last year, he was more in the closer to the alpha category. Just hasn't had an opportunity to follow up that season because I do want to see multiple years of a guy at that level as well before we put him in the alpha category. So I'm going to put him in the true number 1 category, but he's kind of like an up and down arrow where we'll see what happens coming off the injury. Brian Thomas Jr. He's fascinating. I think he probably belongs in this category. And this is where this tier gets a little murky, right? Because like Brian Thomas is going to be better than probably some of these guys, but I also want to, maybe we should put that like right there, like slide that around a little bit. We can make some adjustments like that on the fly, but Brian Thomas has all the potential in the world. He's an unbelievable vertical threat. He runs good routes. He's got all the size, crazy athleticism. But his ball skills this year have been a major, major issue. If he came out the gate and repeated what he did last year, we'd be talking about him up there, but we're not really comfortable to do that quite yet. I think he belongs in the prospect category as someone you're hoping is still ascending as a premium talent in the league. Calvin Austin, very fun player, actually very versatile. You could probably put him in this category or this category. I think he's at his best as a vertical threat, but somewhere in this grouping, nice kind of number 3 wide receiver for the Steelers, being asked to be their number 2 right now. I don't know how. I think this is okay. This is supposed to be Calvin Ridley. That's my fault, you guys. I have a typo. I figured with 138 of these that would happen. So just bear with me here. This is supposed to be Calvin Ridley, but he to me is the definition of a true number 2 guy at this point. If he came out the gate and looked stronger to start this season to follow up what he did at the end of last year in Tennessee, I would say he's this category where he can survive as your number 1 because that's what he was at the end of last year, but just hasn't been able to get back to that this year. I think he's kind of back to a true number 2 guy. He's kind of flirted between the bottom of this tier and the top of this tier for a while now. All right, Cedric Tillman, still an ascending guy that I'm interested if the Browns ever find some semblance of a potent passing game. I think could actually become more than this. There's a lot of shades of a young Nico Collins in Cedric Tillman, but obviously just hasn't taken that leap that Tillman did a couple years ago. I do still think he's a 1 of 3. He has shown a lot of good stuff. He would go in that kind of possession X wide receiver category, but he hasn't quite been good enough to land as a true number 2 guy, even if the Browns have asked him to be their number 2. All right, CeeDee Lamb, got to shoot him way up here, obviously. I think I'm still taking him over A.J. Brown and Amon-Ra. I mean, you're talking about that complete skill set. We've seen some absolutely absurd production from him. I don't think we're quite putting him up there with this top group here, but might end up the top of the alpha tier. Before I do go to the next player here, I want to thank the sponsor for today's video, SeatGeek. This is the best time to be a sports fan. We've got, of course, the NFL in full force, but baseball playoffs, if you're a lucky fan of one of the 4 remaining teams, you want to go support your baseball team, but also NHL and NBA picking up here as well. So if you're planning on heading out to a game, whatever it might be, SeatGeek has got you covered with the best prices, the best user interface as well. They color code every single seat, so all you have to do is look for the green dots, and you know you're getting the best bang for your buck, not just within the SeatGeek app, but market competitive prices as well. I'm always out there looking at other ticketing options, and I always find myself right back at SeatGeek because number one, they have the best options, but the best prices on top of that. They even give you images inside these stadiums of exactly what your seats are going to look like. Super helpful if you're going to a stadium for the first time or you've never sat in a certain section. Really enjoy that. And right now, if you use code TFG10 on your next purchase, you can save up to $20. So whatever event you might be headed to, SeatGeek has got you covered. Again, it is code TFG10 at checkout. And most of all, I hope you have a great time. Shamari DK, interesting prospect. I kind of buy him. I'm buying him if the Titans can get a good coach next year, because these deep threats are so dependent on the quarterback being there and having a coach that understands how to scheme these guys open. But, and I know you're seeing Arian Smith down there. Well, they don't have the quarterback right now, and it's, Arian was not as good of a prospect, in my opinion, as Shamari DK. That really stood out to me at Florida. I actually thought DK got drafted in the range that he was supposed to. Some people thought it was earlier than they expected, but I do believe in him as a prospect. Obviously, he's going to need the infrastructure in Tennessee to be better, but fun spot for him. Okay, Chris Godwin. I mean, he's been the definition of this through his career. This injury is really scary right now. It's so scary that I think I'm comfortable actually dropping him down to just saying he's a number 2 guy. The days of Chris Godwin being your best wide receiver or being in that category, obviously Mike Evans has always been there. I think those have probably sailed. If he did this a year ago before the injury, I would say absolutely, like, this is the perfect Chris Godwin descriptor. But the injury has scared me. Chris Olave. I think Olave is a true number 1. I do. The Saints passing game hasn't been prolific enough for him to consistently show like alpha numbers, but you watch his tape, there's not a single thing he doesn't do. The route running, the speed was always exceptional coming out, but what he's done really well in recent seasons too is actually win tough catches and show some pretty crazy ball skills. Obviously the concussion stuff's a little scary. It's kind of fitting that he's next to Brandon Ayuk there with some injury notes, but I really do think he is someone that you can be comfortable with as your number 1 wide receiver. Christian Kirk, I think ideally a number 4 at this point. Another guy that's kind of dealt with a lot of injuries, but I think him next to Brandon Cooks makes sense. We don't need to spend too much time on Christian Kirk. Christian Watson, very explosive vertical threat. He also, like Alec Pierce, I think of these two guys as very similar types of talents, a couple second-round picks from a same draft class, I think. And two guys that have probably been underrated players, frankly. Watson's just really dealt with injuries. If Watson just never got hurt, I mean, he really does have, Brian Thomas is not a bad, physical comp, and when Christian Watson's on, there's a lot of Brian Thomas in him. I don't think we're going to see that version of Christian Watson at this point, but I think right next to Alec Pierce really makes sense. Green Bay brought him back. He's going to see the field within the next couple of weeks, and if he has this crazy recovery, look out for him making a big impact on Green Bay. All right, Cooper Kupp, still playing well in Seattle. He to me is the definition of a true number 2 guy at this point. Once upon a time, he was an alpha. That's not who he is anymore. He's not particularly explosive, but kind of the definition in this category. I think I'd still, again, typo there. I think I would still take Calvin Ridley over Cooper Kupp just because of the separation skills, but it's a good spot for him. All right, Courtland Sutton. Honestly, and I think at this point, I don't really know what to do with this tier because there's going to be guys in it that I would rank over this tier, but there's going to be guys in it as well that I would put below this tier. So it's kind of really tough to know necessarily where to decide there, but we'll leave it there for now and maybe adjust as we go. Maybe we can create a second tier or something. But anyway, this is the definition of Courtland Sutton. He can survive as your number 1. He's a true X wide receiver skill set. He can dominate on slants. He hasn't had the best passing attack around him to really put up crazy numbers, but he got that big contract this offseason, and I didn't blink an eye at it. He is a true number 1 X wide receiver that like ideally you would pair him with someone that's extremely dominant, but you can't always have that ideal situation. In other words, here you can have him as your number one and try to fill in with some of these other good complementary pieces and make it work. So I think that's the perfect definition of Courtland Sutton. All right, Curtis Samuel, gadget slot guy. Probably don't need to spend any more time on that. He's hurt right now. Darius Slayton, again, don't have to spend too much time on this. He's a starting caliber player. The Giants extended him. Had a pretty tough week a few weeks ago against the Saints, but I still like Darius Slayton. He's a team captain, and he is the definition of a starting caliber vertical threat. He can stretch the field and make some plays. He's just pretty inconsistent at doing that. Darnell Mooney. I actually think Darnell Mooney is a true number two, and this might be a little bit more debatable, but man, when he was the number one in Chicago, he played really well. Then, he ended up having to be the number two for Justin Fields, which is the worst job in the NFL, to be the number two wide receiver for Justin Fields because he's never going to look at you. Well, the Falcons watched the tape and said, yeah, he's still a legit number two type of wide receiver. They give him good money, and he balled out last year. I really believe in the talent. He's just been injured to start this season, so I think people have kind of forgotten about him. But I really do think this is the right spot for Darnell Mooney. He's better than most of the guys we're going to put in this category here. Then we have Davante Adams. I think at this stage, you're probably talking about him as you can survive with him as your number one. I don't know that it's ideal that he would be your number one. I think you can make a debate that he still belongs in this category. He was pretty good with the Jets last year, but I think some of the amazing ball skills that he had in his prime, he's had some drops, he's had some contested catch issues. This feels at this stage in his career still a very respectable spot for Davante. Okay, DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's still a capable starting possession guy. He's made some good plays for the Ravens. I'd probably put him above Cedric Tillman too, just out of respect for what Hopkins has done in his career. But obviously not super explosive at this stage. Deebo Samuel, he might end up near the top of the slot or gadget 1 of 3 category. I don't really view him as a true number 2 guy just because he's his production is going to be up there with a lot of these guys, but a lot of his stuff is easy targets, bubble screens, quick slants. He's the ultimate gadget player. And when he was in his prime, he was so elite at run after the catch and being a bully. He was up here with this type of difference making player. He's produced for the Commanders. He's been a nice addition. But I wouldn't describe him as a huge difference maker for them either. Demarcus Robinson, he's the definition of a number 4, ideally, would go in this category. And at this point, I would put him below Cooks and Kirk. He hasn't done too much for the Niners here this season. Underratedly clutch player, though, Demarcus Robinson, and has made a very nice career for himself. Demario Douglas absolutely belongs in this category. Had a nasty week last week against the Saints. I'm excited to see him continue to get better and better now that the Patriots offense is able to support a guy like Demario Douglas. He's a really explosive player. Devon Vele, had to put him in here after the Saints traded a 4th round pick for him. He's ideally a number 4 for you. He plays that kind of big slot role. He's kind of a role-playing type of wide receiver, and I would probably put him, he's an interesting young player. I'd probably put him at the bottom of the guys we've ranked so far, though. Devontae Smith, fascinating player to discuss, right? Because he is the number 2 in an offense that can hardly support their own passing game, yet you watch his tape and you're like, that's a true number 1. I'm going to stand by it, man. I think if you put Devontae Smith, if you flipped him with CeeDee Lamb last year, for example, and you put Devontae Smith there, or in any spot where Devontae Smith is in a good passing game where he's the number 1 guy and he's getting fed and being asked to run all the routes and do all the great stuff he can do, I think there's a world where we're talking about him in this tier. It's just Jalen Hurts is his quarterback, and A.J. Brown's going to get the primary aspect of those targets, and their passing game it's a high school offense. So I'm not going to put him over more established, more productive guys like Ayuk and Olave, but I do think he's a true number 1 guy. If you put him in a different situation and he's your number 1 guy, I think you're happy with it, frankly. Then we got DJ Moore. We're going to go right back to that same tier. He's been pretty quiet in the last couple of years, but I still do believe in the talent. He did a good week against the Commanders last week, so I don't know necessarily. There's a lot of guys in here with Ayuk, DJ Moore, Devontae Adams, kind of maybe on the downward slope a little bit. I still think DJ belongs in this tier. I think I would. Let's see. Like, if this is a gun to my head scenario, would I rather build my team, let's just say for 1 year, around Devontae Smith or DJ Moore? I think with some of the questions around Moore lately, I think I would lean Devontae Smith there. Then we got DK Metcalf. Definitely got to shoot him up into that category as well. I think he's a true number one. I don't think he's an alpha. There's still some limitations in terms of the types of routes he can run. He has some frustrating ball skills at times. You wish he was more of a go-getter, contested catch ball winner than he is at his size. But he's definitely someone that if he's your best wide receiver, I think you can be happy with it. So I'm going to put him, I think I'm going to put him above DJ Moore and behind Devontae Smith there. All right, Dontavion Wicks, interesting player to assess here. Really bad last year. Last year, he was firmly in this category, but stood out as a rookie. And this year, he's playing really well, but now he's like buried behind a pretty deep group of wide receivers. It just comes down to how much you trust if his hands are back. I think he deserves to be viewed as a starting caliber wide receiver, though. Really tough guy to rank. He's either like near the top of this or near the bottom of this. I don't know. 2 out of 3 years he's been on the field, he's looked like this guy. So I think he's earned that. But you have to keep in mind, like last year, this guy led the league in drop rate. But that's not really his style. Like he's a physical possession wide receiver that I think you can have some confidence that his drop issues are behind him. But if they show up again, he would have to plummet down there. But for now, I think he deserves to go right there. Okay, Deontay Thornton. I kind of buy in him. Like, he kind of just looks the part to me. Freaky prospect coming out of Tennessee. I mean, him and Shamari DK were identical grades for me coming out. Both these players have landed in kind of like nightmarish landing spots. DK more so than Thornton, but having those guys next to each other makes a lot of sense. All right, Drake London, true number one for sure. I think the question with him is, has he earned the alpha category? Probably not quite yet, but I think it could be there. I would put him. I'm kind of second guessing this. I think I'm actually going to put Smith below DK Metcalf. DK looks really good this year with Aaron Rodgers, and I think I would put Drake London above DK Metcalf. And I think. This gets so hard because these guys are all so different, man. And then Ayuk's just like hasn't been healthy for so long. But when he was better than all these guys. This gets so hard. This is why they're tiers, right? This doesn't feel right to me. This doesn't feel right to me. That feels right to me. But it's so close with those guys right there. All right, Dyami Brown. I like Dyami Brown. He's a quality starting caliber wide receiver. He has some drop issues. Putting him next to Dontavion Wicks makes a lot of sense, but he's got a lot of juice after the catch and separation skills. He's made some good plays for the Jags this year. Ellick Iomanor, he is, maybe even already in this category up here. He looks really good. Never should have gone in the 4th round. There was an injury scare. Probably still has to go in the prospect category, but he's one of the true prospects that I'm absolutely buying. Emeka Egbuka, just drop him right here, man, because so far out the gate, he has been so much more dominant than I thought he would be. I thought he was coming out going to be like firmly in this category right here. Just like slam dunk draft pick in terms of floor. But the vertical ability that he's shown in this Bucs offense, you have to consider him as someone with number one potential and higher. He looks incredible. His ability to just track the ball, brush off contact, it's so Cooper Kupp in his prime-esque. And like I said, Cooper Kupp in his prime was up there. So he's been outstanding. And man, you could debate between Egbuka and Brian Thomas at this point too. But I think we'll give the nod to Thomas after the year he had last year. All right, Garrett Wilson. He's tough because he's had such bad quarterback play, and then even when he had Aaron Rodgers, which was like adequate quarterback play, he very quickly was replaced as he was forced to be the number 2 there. I almost look at Garrett Wilson in this category, even though he's 4 years in. he's somewhere between everything we said about Devonta Smith, where it's like all the film is there. I know he's got that talent. And like Brian Thomas and Egbuka, where you just want to see a larger sample size. I think I'm going to put him at the top of the prospect category. I know it's weird to put a fourth-year player there, but I think given his circumstances, it's fair. Like he's not established as a number one, but you still think he can get there. So George Pickens, I mean, he's a number one, dude. Like the year he's having, and having had to play as the Cowboys' number one wide receiver and produce in that sense, I mean, he looks incredible. I think you put him over DJ Moore. I think him and Devonta Smith are debatable. I think I'd still lean Devonta Smith, but it's hard because we've at least now seen George Pickens do it, where we haven't had to see that from Devonta Smith. So it's more of a leap of faith with Devonta. So maybe just because it is more proven, we'll give the slight nod to Pickens, but very close there. All right, Greg Dortch. I like Greg Dortch, man. I think he's underrated. I think he's, as a slot player, he can be out there. Maybe more of an ideally, yeah, maybe more realistically, he's probably not one of your top three targeted players in your offense in the way that I think these three guys can be more adequate in that sense. So he's probably more in this category, but he's at the top of it, I think, for me for now. Also, I'm going to put Christian Kirk over Brandon Cooks. Just a slight tweak there. All right, Hollywood Brown. He's a one of three. Not much is clear to me at this point. The question is, do we view Hollywood Brown as a vertical threat at this point, or is he more of a possession guy, or is he more of a slot or gadget guy? He kind of does a little bit of everything. Years ago, I would have said, yeah, that's a vertical threat. But I think, honestly, with how he plays in that Chiefs offense, he kind of goes in here, just kind of a route runner that can get some quality targets. I think I'm going to put him at the top of this, but you could put him like really anywhere in this kind of group right here. But I'm going to put him actually just because of how he's been used there. They haven't really been launching the deep ball to him. I don't know that he's lost speed or anything. It's more of just what they see in him. But he's been all right for the Chiefs. Isaac Tesla. He's a prospect I'm buying, man. I think I'm going to put him below Io Manor, but I questioned why the Lions gave up 3 third-round picks to move up and get him. It was an aggressive move, but the dude has passed every single eye test that he's been asked of so far, and I mean, the Lions have earned a benefit of the doubt with a guy like this that, with those traits, is going to ascend. So I'm excited to follow his career. Isaiah Bond, I mean, he's playing for the Browns, undrafted pickup after some off-field issues. I'm not really buying him. He created a lot of separation at Texas, and it's impressive that he's getting out there on the field. But between him being a guy I don't really have a lot of faith in to develop a whole lot, and the Browns, where, I mean, how many of these guys have they had where it's just like, I mean, the talent's there, but they can't develop anybody within that offense. So it's part of that is that. So I think putting him next to like Adonai Mitchell makes a lot of sense. I do like him as a player more than Arian Smith, though. All right, Jack Besh. Really high floor player coming out. He's been bottlenecked by having Jacoby Myers ahead of him, which is an identical skill set. I'm going to take a leap of faith with him and actually put him in this category just because I think what he was as a prospect was so sound, and he has looked the part. But then it's like, do I have to put Io Manor up there? I could be confident enough to put Io Manor up here. I haven't seen any bad from Io Manor really in a pretty terrible situation, because I had these two guys like neck and neck in terms of how I viewed them as prospects, as second round guys, and I'm actually comfortable with this. I think Diami Brown needs to go above them. But I have more questions. Like, I have more questions about Dontavion Wicks than I do about Io Manor and Besh. So I think that actually works. But yeah, Jack Besh, I'm excited to see him get more and more of a workload as his career goes on, because the dude is super tough and a really smart football player. So we're gonna leave him there. And then you got Jahan Dotson. Kind of the same thing with Devonta Smith. Like, he lost his confidence in Washington, and it took a while in Philadelphia for him to gain any confidence, but he was really good down the stretch last year. He was awesome as a rookie, and he's looked really good in the like one target a game that he's able to get. in that Eagles passing game. I think he also belongs in this category. I view him very similarly to like Diami Brown. There might be some drops in there or stuff, but I think at some point Jahan Dotson, like a Diami Brown is getting in Jacksonville, is going to get an opportunity to go get some more targets elsewhere. He's on the end of his rookie deal here. So I'm gonna take a leap of faith with Jahan Dotson. Jalen Coker also goes in this category, and he's a really good young player, dude. Like, he's the reason the Panthers traded Adam Thielen. If you haven't watched Jalen Coker, check him out. My long shot pro comp on him as an undrafted type of guy was Adam Thielen, and he has shown a lot of those shades as a guy that can line up both inside and out, but primarily from the slot, win a lot of tough catches, be in the right place at the right time for Bryce. They've missed him to start this season. I really hope he can get back out there soon to kind of prove this out. But this is kind of a run of players from Coker all the way to Wicks where it's like, I like the skill set. They passed the eye test. The volume maybe isn't necessarily there. But these are all kind of leap of faith guys that I think should still be starting in the NFL one way or another. Jalen McMillan, I think, goes in a similar category there. He's interesting because he's now had injuries. He did have a lot of drops last year, but he's super explosive. He's kind of a unique player where it's like he probably belongs in possession guy category, but he's also got a little bit of a vertical threat to him. He's got a little bit of that kind of slot tool set to him. But yeah, I think he lines right up with that conversation we just had about all these guys, where he still has to prove it, passes the eye test. I think I'd probably put him right above Wicks there, but I would... well, he's more proven than Io Manor and Besh, so we'll give him the tiebreaker there, I suppose. Jalen Naylor, I think he's a 4. You know, he's made some plays for the Vikes. He's a 4 in the sense of like, okay, he's your wide receiver 3, that's fine, because you also have TJ Hawkinson. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's just not going to get a huge target share. He's an okay player. I think that's the perfect spot for a Jalen Naylor. Jalen Royals, this is a prospect I'm buying. He has not had a lot of health, but I love the landing spot. The only complication with Royals is that Rashee Rice is the exact same type of player, and I don't know if Royals is necessarily going to end up getting the opportunities in Kansas City, but I do believe in the prospect if he can get healthy. Then you got Jalen Tolbert. He's probably in this category, if we're being honest. He's had some good moments. You can make an argument he belongs like in the bottom of this tier. That's tough. I mean, he has definitely made some tough catches, but I just don't really buy the separation. I'm curious what Cowboys thinks of that. I think he's more in this category. Where it's like, yeah, if you've got CeeDee Lamb and Pickens and you have a great tight end in Ferguson, yeah, if Tolbert's out there getting a couple targets every week, like that's a pretty good spot as the number 4 in your pecking order. But I don't think he has, outside of winning some tough catches, like all these guys have a little bit more of an it factor about them where it's like, oh yeah, that's there's starting traits in there. All right, Jalen Hyatt. Definitely still a prospect, hasn't seen a lot of playing time. He is someone I'm selling. I think he's a track athlete and always was coming out of that Tennessee offense. Jalen Polk, another prospect I'm selling, just as the Patriots were. I really just included him so I could make fun of the Patriots yet again for something I crucified them on draft night, where they could have taken Ladd McConkey, traded back a few picks, and then took Jalen Polk. It was an objectively terrible decision at the time, and I kind of wanted to just roast them for it. But yeah, I don't see a quality NFL wide receiver in Jalen Polk. Never really did. He made some tough catches at Washington, but you need a little bit more than that to translate. And I hope I'm wrong about that, but he's a guy I'm selling with the Saints trading for him. Then we got Jamari Thrash. At this point, I mean, he's playing for the Browns. Probably another one of these Browns wide receivers that I'm just kind of selling. I liked Thrash coming out, but haven't really seen those flashes from him, and he's had some opportunities to step up, so probably not buying Jamari Thrash. All right, Jamar Chase. Obviously got to go up to the number 1 spot with him at this point. I think what he did last year was unbelievable. He continues to... let's just grab Justin Jefferson now, because this is 1 and 2 right here. And, I think Chase continues to just edge Jefferson out. But both these guys, like, pick your poison. Like, these two players specifically are the reason I felt the need to create a separate tier, because they do literally everything that you can ask for at the wide receiver position. They threaten all 3 levels of the field. They're great route runners. They're awesome after the catch. They win tough catches. All of these other guys, you can at least pick some holes. I think CD at times has shown a case that he's up here. Just hasn't quite had the back-to-back years of that production. I think his ball skills are not quite where these guys are at. AJ Brown had a year of it again, but what he's doing right now, he's not on that level right now as an athlete and a separator. Amon-Ra is as good as he is. He doesn't have the outside versatility of these guys. There is not really anything to nitpick in these guys' games, other than Jamar Chase had a couple frustration drops last year, but I think those guys in their play speak for themselves, and we'll see if we feel the need to put anybody else in that category as we go. Okay, Jameson Williams, he's got to go in the true number 2 category, right? They gave him a ton of money. I don't know that he's necessarily earned the money they gave him, but he's somewhere in here. I think like Calvin Ott, I think I'd put him at the top of it, just because he's kind of ascending and these other guys are descending. But he's kind of like a supercharged Darnell Mooney. I think that makes sense. I don't think he has the complete skill set. Like, I still view him as primarily a vertical guy. I don't think he has the complete skill set to say, like, he could be a number 1. I think as a 2 and the perfect complementary skill set to Amon-Ra, he makes sense. So I don't see him really climbing too much further than that type of spot. Juwan Jennings, super underrated player. I've always loved Juwan Jennings. I might even have to put him above Debo. I know he's injured right now, but, dude, go look at some of those games where Juwan had to be the go-to target in their offense. The guy makes incredible catches. He's still maybe the best run-blocking receiver in the league, and that's underrated in a Kyle Shanahan offense. He's awesome after the catch, consistently catches checkdowns, turns upfield. It's kind of funny because Debo was here, right? But there was no doubt last year. These guys were both in San Francisco, and there was no doubt who the better wide receiver was. This year, he's been trying to play through, like, a swollen ankle and like broken ribs. So the recency bias might have you say Debo's better, but once Jennings is healthy, I still think he's a remarkably underrated player. All right, Jackson Smith-Njigba. This is one that I think a lot of people are waiting for, right? This was very similar to what we said with Amon-Ra, where these two players have transformed how I look at what this skill set can mean for an NFL offense. And both Amon-Ra and Jackson Smith-Njigba, there's no way to watch their games at this point and say, yeah, that's not an alpha dominant, like one of the best wide receivers in the league that can be the engine of your offense and is just consistently helping you win games every single week. I mean, you can't deny it with JSN at this point. And I got to say, man, I just didn't think this upside was possible with him. I thought he would land somewhere around here. But it's the route running. It's his play speed. Like, the acceleration in short areas helps him play so fast. And that shows up in his route running and his ability to separate deep at times. Like, he runs these double moves and the spacing he creates on that second cut, it's just insane. And then the dude literally catches everything. It's so impressive. He is absolutely near the top of the league for wide receivers, and deserves all of the credit in the world. All right, Jaden Higgins. This is a tough one because he's only seen 10 targets in a Texans offense that has struggled to buy time to throw the ball. And you've got Nico Collins there, right? So I absolutely believe in the skill set. If we're taking leaps of faith with these guys, I'm willing to take a leap of faith with Jaden Higgins, who has come down with 9 of his 10 targets for 120 yards this year. I think he's kind of a tough guy to place. He almost needs his own category. I don't think I'm quite going to go far enough to like create a whole nother tier for him right now, because he's like an interesting prospect with number 2 potential. So I think for now, he has to just go in this category with this run of kind of unproven dudes. Definitely a possession guy. And I think like Cedric Tillman's a good kind of comparison for him. So I think we'll put him behind Cedric Tillman. That feels right to me. Okay, Jalen Waddle. I think he goes with the true number twos, right? Like I'll put him over Jamison Williams because I think he's more well-rounded. But maybe we'll see as this year goes on. But I think some of the frustrating ball skills we saw again this week against the Panthers, he kind of bobbles a catch and it gets intercepted. Like, you want your number one guy to be more reliable than Jalen Waddle, and that's ultimately held him down into this category. That he's until he can really establish more consistency with his ball skills, he's a true number two guy. He maybe even you could argue like the arrow could be pointing up if he could fix that. But at this point, I mean, that's been an issue for him for a long time. I think him and Jamison Williams next to each other, both those Alabama speedsters, I think adds up. All right, Jalen Lane, very interesting prospect. Hasn't seen too much, but he's converted some catches when they've gone his way. I think because of the surrounding situation, I got to put him above these three guys. Even if I would have had these three players ranked slightly ahead of Jalen Lane, I did like Lane as a prospect as well. And I think it's a good spot where, like, okay, Terry's there, of course, but he's into his 30s at this point. But beyond Terry, they don't really have any young, interesting guys that really get my attention. I mean, we'll talk about Luke McCaffrey. But Lane has that Terry McLaurin-ish skill set. So I'm definitely fascinated to continue following his career. Jalen Knoll. I mean, same deal. Hasn't really played much. He's shown a ton of signs in the return game, but he's only gotten 7 targets in his rookie season here. So he's got to go right down here. But I had a higher grade on him than really all these guys. I think I would put him actually even higher than TeSlaa because he was like a slightly poor man's Ladd McConkey as a prospect. It's incredible praise because Ladd was my wide receiver 5 that year. I'm not saying he's as good as Ladd, but in terms of the route running, the speed, the ability to stretch the field vertically from the slot, which is a rare skill set, he has a lot of potential to be, somewhere in this category, for sure. But for now, he's a prospect I'm buying. Jermaine Burton. I don't know if anybody's buying Jermaine Burton stock anymore. I'll put him next to his teammate, Andre Yosivas there. Still a lot of talent, but total knucklehead off the field. It's hard to bet on that guy. Okay, Jerry Jeudy. Him and Calvin Ridley, to me, have always been such similar receivers. Ironically, they both played at Bama. And again, sorry for the typo on the Calvin Austin there. It's way too hard to go back because I had to upload this whole template. And we got it all set up. But anyway, Jerry Jeudy, route runner, but like separation galore. Like I would put Calvin Ridley and Jerry Jeudy in the top 10 for best route runners in the NFL. But the ball skills are just so inconsistent and frustrating. But Jerry Jeudy still belongs in this tier. I know he's not producing this year. That Browns passing game has been anemic. Last year, when they were able to throw the ball a little bit more, Jerry Jeudy was like, he was like top 10 in receiving down the stretch with Jameis last year. So he still has it. It's just you can expect some drops from him. Jimmy Horn Jr., fascinating prospect, starting to get out there a little bit more. I think I would put him probably still behind these guys, but there's something about him that it just works, right? It's not like he has drop issues. He's a really good route runner. He was underutilized at Colorado. But he's a talented guy. I could see him emerging as kind of a Demario Douglas-esque young player in that Panthers offense. Juju Smith-Schuster belongs on the list. He's still producing for the Chiefs, but we don't need to spend too much time on him. He's kind of in the Brandon Cooks, Christian Kirk category. I think I will put him right there. All right, Jacoby Myers. He's a true number 2 to me. Jacoby's a really good player, incredibly tough. One of the best, I'm just going to drop him there for a second, one of the best contested catch ball winners in the sense of winning leverage, boxing guys out. I can't remember the exact number, but I did highlight it in the Raiders deep dive. Like, he is up there in the top 3 at least for the best contested catch win rates of any wide receiver in the league for the last 5 years. It's up there with like Drake London and Amon-Ra. Like, it's crazy how good he is in that area. He's a shifty route runner. He's pretty solid after the catch. Really savvy scramble drill guy, former quarterback that understands the game really well. True number 2 type of guy. And I think I dropped him in a good spot there, behind Chris Godwin and ahead of Calvin Ridley. Jonathan Mingo. I don't even know why I made this anymore. He goes at the very bottom. I mean, come on. Why the hell did the Cowboys trade for him? What a waste. Jordan Addison. He's a true number 2 to me. The size, I think, has its limitations with him. Just like you do see him get pressed out of the gym at times. And for me, it's like, that's, he's not, that's a defining drawback of him ever being a true number 1. But excellent route runner, excellent separator. I feel pretty good about putting him at this point above Godwin and Myers with Godwin's injury concerns there. All right, Jordan Watkins, probably a prospect I'm selling. Interesting-ish vertical threat coming out. I guess I'll put him above Jalen Hyatt, but that felt like, the Niners every year, they have a 3rd or a 4th round pick, and you're like, maybe, but probably not. They waste a lot of picks in that range, and they have shown no willingness at all to give him any playing time either. That's definitely a concern. Like, they've had wide open opportunities for those wide receivers, and it's been bringing in Kendrick Bourne. It's been Marquez Valdez-Scantling, like that type of stuff. They've had no interest in playing Jordan Watkins, and that's got to be a little bit of a red flag. Okay, Jordan Whittington. I really like Jordan Whittington. I'm going to take a leap of faith with him. He's at a smaller sample size, but I'm going to put him in the starting caliber category as kind of a bit. My pro comp on him coming out was something like Jawan Jennings, and he plays that same role in a similar offense for the Rams, and he is that big slot option. And we might get to see a little Jordan Whittington this week if Puka can't play, because he really fits that Rams 11.5 personnel type of package where he's half tight end, half wide receiver. I'm a fan, and he's shown a lot of flashes, just hasn't put it all together with some of the ball skills and stuff. But Josh Downs, I'm kind of tempted to say he's a true number 2. I mean, he is clearly one of the best slot wide receivers in the league. He can do everything from that position. He can even come down with catches down the field. I mean, if Jacoby Myers is in this category, I think Josh Downs is. I think I'm ready with Josh Downs, dude. The last few weeks he's looked awesome for the Colts. He's been a great pairing with Daniel Jones. He's a very, very good football player that never should have gone as late in the draft as he did. Does he have the size speed combo to be anything more than this? No, probably not. But that's why the true number 2 category exists. All right, Josh Palmer, possession guy, 1 of 3, adequate starter. I would have to put him probably behind Hollywood Brown and above DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, he's kind of the poster boy for this type of wide receiver. Like, yeah, if he's one of your starters, that's fine, but you're going to need a couple other guys that give you a lot more juice than that. Josh Reynolds, at this point, ideally a number 4 in your passing game. Unfortunately for the Jets, he's their number 2, which shows you where they're at. But again, it's not like Justin Fields is going to look at your number 2 anyway, so I respect the team building from the Jets there. But yeah, physical guy, but probably shouldn't be starting for you at this point. Khalif Raymond, I like him as a gadget guy. Not much more than that. I think I'd probably put him right next to like Curtis Samuel in that category. Keyshawn Booty, he's impressed me, dude. He has earned his way into the starting caliber ranks. And he actually, if he keeps playing like this, with Drake May developing some of that back shoulder chemistry and trust with him, he could be a legitimate, like, solid number 2 guy. His ball skills have been really good. He's not there yet. There's a lot of Josh Palmer, frankly, in how he plays. So I think I'd put him. I'd still take Tillman over him in a pinch. Hopkins is tough because he's just so old at this point, but he's still made some tough catches. I think that it's a good place for Booty, but he's impressed me. He's trending upwards. Kavontae Turpin, fun player. I mean, if Khalif Raymond's on here, I think Kavontae Turpin should be on here. He's actually shown some pretty good like catches, and it's nice that he's with Dak, who's actually gonna like put it on the money with that tiny catch radius. I think he's the smallest player in the league, maybe ahead of Tez Johnson, but he's one of the best return men in the league. And they've used him more and more on offense, and he's had some productive moments for them. So he belongs in that category. Keandre Lambert-Smith, if the opportunity was larger, I would really be interested in what he could do. Realistically, I'm probably selling him, but it was a good draft pick. Just to get more of a vertical threat in there, 5th round pick. Because of the opportunity, I'm probably selling him, but I do like the player quite a lot. And if these guys are ordered in the sense of it's a little bit more of a tough call towards the left of the tier, whereas down here it's like, yeah, absolutely not. I think him on the left side saying I wouldn't be stunned if he works out, but I'm probably, if I had to pick, probably selling him. Keenan Allen, he's still a true number 2, man. Putting him next to like Chris Godwin feels very rational. He's played really well with the Chargers. His chemistry, I mean, him and Jacoby Myers, very similar types of players right now. Can play a little bit outside, a little bit inside. But yeah, Keenan's having a good year. Still playing like a top 25, 30 wide receiver or so. Kendrick Bourne, hey, what a resurgence for Kendrick Bourne. He's probably more of a possession type of guy, attacking the intermediate part of the field. But he's been healthy. He's been really good with Mac Jones. He definitely belongs in this category. I'm going to put him next to his former teammate in Keyshawn Boutte there. Keon Coleman. Man, I would love to put him up here, but he probably should be like next to Cedric Tillman, I think. Like, big-bodied guy that just hasn't really had the production, has looked the part when they call his number, but just haven't found a way to do it enough. But I like him more than DeAndre Hopkins. I like him more than Josh Palmer. You know what? We're going to do this. I talked about maybe doing this earlier. But we're going to add a row. And this is going to be the ascending starter with number 2 potential. And I might need to revisit like who else needs to go in here. But I think Cedric Tillman belongs in there. And just kind of looking through this, I think we're still good. Yeah. I think that's good, because I'm not quite ready to say like Iomanner and Besh are like truly ascending or proven enough. It does get a little sticky as far as like who all is better than who, because I don't think Cedric Tillman's better than Alec Pierce or Jawan Jennings, you know what I'm saying? But you guys can understand nuance in that sense. I'd rather provide the context of kind of how teams should be viewing these wide receivers than just create a 1 through 100 list without much context, because it really does just come down to what you need from all of these talented wide receivers. But Khalil Shakir, absolutely a number 2 guy. I mean, him and Josh Downs and Jacoby Myers, like those 3 guys back to back to back, that totally stacks up just like the best true slot wide receivers in the league. Once you pull JSN and St. Brown out of there, they're obviously a different discussion. But these guys are going to dominate you from the slot. They're not going to give you much more than that, but you're going to be very appreciative of that. And if they are the second best receiver on your team, I think you could be happy with that. Okay, Kyle Williams. We haven't seen him yet, but this is a prospect I still absolutely believe in. I think I got to put him below Jalen Noel. Just going back to my draft rankings, I would have had Noel above Williams. But I just love this landing spot, especially with how Drake May is playing. I wonder if there's going to be a point this season where we see Kyle Williams, because he does have some serious field stretching ability. There's a lot of Darnell Mooney in his game. I think that was my pro comp for him. They haven't really needed him to this point, but I would love to see him. I'm still buying Kyle Williams. Lad. All right, Lad, I think, is probably in here at this point. Like maybe between Garrett Wilson and Bryant Thomas Jr. Lad, I think, belongs in the same discussion at least with Amon-Ra and JSN, because yes, he's primarily a slot wide receiver, but unlike a Shakir or a Josh Downs, and I know Jacoby does it a little bit, but he doesn't have the juice. But unlike especially Shakir and Downs, who are those true slot guys, McConkey can step outside, but especially he has that field stretching ability to be a vertical threat from the slot as well. We saw last year he can also be a number 1 in the sense of like he was the engine of their passing game. So I love Ladd McConkey, and we haven't really seen quite enough to like trust him in this top rank. But I could see a world where in a year or two we're putting him up there with the JSN, and maybe Igbuka's up there with them. All these guys are kind of reshaping my mentality of what an alpha wide receiver could be. A year ago, I would have said that guy has to be someone that lines up on the outside, first and foremost, and can win in that way. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way in my mind anymore. All right, Luke McCaffrey. Look, he had a great catch a couple weeks ago for the Commanders. He's playing better as of late. I still think he's a severely limited wide receiver. I don't think he belongs as like someone that should be starting for you right now. He's probably still a prospect. But I think at this point, like I feel pretty good about what Luke McCaffrey is. I think he's, a something like a DeMarcus Robinson, that like he can make some catches, a Jalen Naylor maybe, like probably at the bottom of this tier, frankly. I don't know. I'm not necessarily... It just depends what your expectations are for him, right? Like, are you expecting him to go be like a quality starter for you? I would push back on that. But are you treating him as like a bust, like that can't see the field, like a Jonathan Mingo or a Jalen Polk? No. So like, I think that makes sense. All right, Luther Burden. He probably goes in this group too. So I'm glad we made this category. Like, I had a late first round grade on Burden. He has looked the part when he's played. I think I would probably put him... I do like Keon Coleman. I just wish the Bills had a better way of using him. Burden's obviously such a small sample size. I would put Burden above Tillman, but below Coleman. Burden does theoretically have number one potential, but that's just such a leap of faith. He's a tough guy to... He's a tough guy to kind of place. Maybe we need to just recategorize this. Instead of limiting it to just number two potential, let's just say plus potential to climb into one of these higher tiers, but maybe not quite at the level of that, other tier there. So I think that really falls in line with like Luther Burden. There's at least one other player coming up that I can think of that's going to need to go in that tier too. So I think that works really well as far as not having someone like Luther Burden above a Jalen Waddle, for example. So I like what we did there. We'll keep that and move forward. All right, Matt Collins, ideally your number 4. Nice player though. He goes towards the top of this group. I'd probably put him above Juju and behind Greg Dortch. Does a little bit of everything for you. Nice utility number 4 wide receiver. Kind of the definition of that. All right, Malik Neighbors. He is definitely up here. I mean, I've seen enough. Have you guys seen enough to put Malik Neighbors up here? I think he's so unbelievably good in an offense that hasn't been able to throw the ball. It's really tragic that he got hurt just as Jackson Dart's starting to kind of figure things out. I'm willing to take a pretty large leap of faith with him. His tape last year, because I watched tape on all these guys before the deep dives and stuff, like he absolutely blew me away. Like I thought he was prepared to maybe take a leap up here if their passing game could figure it out. So it really sucks that he got hurt. We can't have the full confidence to put him in here. But I think I'll put him... I'm going to put him... I'm going to do it. I'm going to put him above Olave behind DK Metcalf. He's so good, dude. I can't say enough. Just sucks so much that he got hurt. We'll give him some love. I hope he can have the same juice when he comes back, because the way that he can bend his body and accelerate and the top speed, it's just it's similar to Tyreek Hill, not with the top speed, but when you watch Tyreek Hill move, you're just like, that dude's not a human. Like that's Malik Neighbors has that in him that I don't know who else I would necessarily say that about on this list right now. Okay, Malik Washington, probably a notable prospect that I'm selling. He's a gadget player. I don't think he's good enough to be up here quite yet. He's doing some decent stuff for them. I'll put him there above like Isaiah Bond. Marv. Honestly, he's another guy we probably need in this category here, right? I mean, he's had his ups and downs. I think he's got his confidence back. I do. He got the concussion this week, but another tough catch that he got concussed on. I still believe in Marv. Do you believe in him more? I mean, both him and Brian Thomas have had their issues this year. Honestly, gut feeling, I still believe in Marv more than Brian Thomas. It's tough. I think you got to go Lad above him though. But I'm gonna back Marv. I think he got in his head a little bit in a couple weeks there, a little bit of recency bias. The concussion was horrible timing on top of all this. But he has, in the last 6 quarters of football, he's looked like the Marv that we really hoped we were going to get. And really 7 quarters going back to the end of that Seahawks game when he helped lead that comeback. So I'm back on board the Marv train. Not that I ever left. Marvin Mims, probably still an interesting prospect. He's shown really good stuff when Denver decides they want to use him. I think I would put him below Jalen Noel and above Kyle Williams and Tesla. Yeah. Okay, Matthew Golden. Been really good to see the Packers remember that they drafted Matthew Golden the last few weeks. He has absolutely passed the eye test when they've targeted him. The route running, the ball skills, like his hands are like glue. Knock on wood, because Packers wide receivers, it's a breath of fresh air to see a guy that seems to have good hands. The run after catch ability, the vertical stretching ability. I have been such a big Matthew Golden guy from the get-go, and then when he landed with the Packers, I just love that landing spot. I'm not quite ready to put him up here yet, but I think he belongs in the same conversation with someone like Luther Burden, where it's like, see more of the sample size. I think the talent for him to be a legit number 1 guy is absolutely there. The pro comp on him was Stephon Diggs, for example, and I stand by that from what we've seen so far. Michael Pittman, he is the literal definition of this tier right here. And I'm going to put him at the bottom of this tier, but he's still having a good year for the Colts, bounced back from that back injury last year. He's the definition of a guy. Look at that Colts team. If he's your number 1, it's not necessarily ideal, but if you put the perfect complement of skill sets around him with a dynamic slot guy, one of the best true vertical threats in the league, tight end and Tyler Warren, who's obviously not going to be on this list, a run game, like, you can absolutely survive with him as your number 1. He's got that big physical game-changing profile. Michael Wilson, definition of a starting caliber possession guy, a lot of Josh Palmer to his game. I'm going to put him ahead of Booty, but behind Hopkins. All these guys are pretty similar types of skill sets right now. Mike Evans. God, it feels like forever since we've even seen Mike Evans play football, but I'm a little worried about the injuries at this point. Missed some time last year. He's missing a lot of time this year, I think. Having him and Ayuk next to each other feels right, just by the narrative that these guys are dealing with some injury stuff right now. Evans obviously getting older. But even when Evans is in his prime, I've always argued he's not quite this, right? He's the consistent 1,000-yard guy, incredible X wide receiver, outstanding skill set, kind of like why we have DK Metcalf here, but he's got some other drawbacks in his game, a little bit more of a quote-unquote one-dimensional type of guy. And Bucs fans hate to hear that, but I mean, he's in the near the top of the league that is loaded with wide receiver talent. I think I just feeling this out. I really like Drake London, and obviously Evans and London have gotten a lot of comparisons to each other. I think they're actually very different. I think Evans has a lot more vertical field stretching ability, whereas London is just unbelievable as a route runner in the short to intermediate game and better after the catch than Mike Evans. So I think at this point, NFC South battle there between these two guys. I think at this point I got to put London over Mike Evans, but Evans over Metcalf. It's just a little harder because we haven't seen Evans so much this year. Mitchell Tinsley, I had to throw him in there just as a shout out and a prospect I'm buying. I would put him probably above Royals. I don't know if the opportunities are going to come for him, but I always liked him coming out of Penn State. Never thought Washington should have released him. Honestly, I think Washington could use him right now with Terry out, but he has met every single call that the Bengals have asked of him. I know I butchered that saying, but you get what I'm saying with Tinsley in Cincinnati. Okay, Nick Westbrook-Akine, another guy just worth a shout out. Ideally at this point should be the fourth target, the fourth member of your passing progressions, but he's got some toughness, a lot of Devon Vele to his game, more established as that big slot type of guy. Then we got Nico. Nico needs his love, man. Nico Collins is so good. He is a true alpha. I think at this point, the debate is on between A.J. Brown and Nico Collins. I mean, A.J. Brown is losing ground quickly because last year I would have firmly had him there. Now, I think Nico does everything better than A.J. Brown. They're similar in a lot of areas. Nico's just so unbelievably good, you guys. Like, the separation he creates at his size, how consistent he is catching the ball over the middle of the field, his ability to win balls down the field and moss DBs, run after catch is great. And the most underrated thing is the chemistry he has with CJ Stroud in scramble drill or to sit down in zones. He is the complete package. I can't sing enough praises of Nico Collins. If they had an offensive line to protect, I thought Nico Collins maybe could continue to break into this category this year, but we'll put him there for now. Noah Brown, ideally number 4. He's shown some good stuff. Like him and Demarcus Robinson, Josh Reynolds, these guys, big physical dudes that you get the point with them. Olamide Zaccheaus, he's a starting caliber gadget guy near the bottom of the group, but he's done some good stuff in Washington and still with Chicago here. Parker Washington also belongs in this tier. I think he has stepped up besides a couple drops for Jacksonville, but he's shown some toughness. I think he's shown that he can be a starting caliber wide receiver in the league. Pat Bryant, definitely a prospect I'm buying. Hasn't seen too many targets yet, but absolutely fits that style of offense as a big receiver on the perimeter. Him and Marvin Mims are a couple guys that don't get a large target share that I think just need to prove a little bit more, but guys that I like as young players. Puka Nacua. Here's the question with him. Is he an elite alpha at this point? I think he's firmly top 5. Oh, God, it's so hard, dude. A.J. Brown, I hate how bad he's playing this year because I love A.J. Brown, but you have to acknowledge it at this point. He's at least 5. I think you just have to put Puka over Nico Collins. I think I'll put him over CeeDee Lamb, dude. Like, this guy is unbelievable. The toughness he shows to make these catches over the middle of the field. He's a running back after the catch. He's getting better as a route runner. He can stretch the field vertically. He blocks his ass off. I worry about the durability with him with his play style. I don't think he's the route runner to put him in the same category as Chase and Jefferson, but I'm ready to put him at the top of this group right here. Curious what you guys think about that. Okay, Quentin Johnston. I mean, he's absolutely turned into a starting caliber player. The question is, I mean, yeah, if you're talking about Cedric Tillman in this category, I think Quentin Johnston still has plus potential to be at least a number 2 guy. I mean, he is oozing with potential, and he's starting to come down with tough catches, create some separation. I think behind Luther Burden and ahead Cedric Tillman makes sense for Quentin. Rashee Rice, he to me is a true number 2. He's not really a down the field wide receiver. I think I'm gonna put him right here. I'm gonna split up Waddle and Williams there. Rice is hyper consistent at what he does, which is winning tough catches over the middle of the field. There's a lot of Chris Godwin in his game, but Godwin, I think, always had a little bit more field stretching ability. And maybe someday Rice develops better route running and release to be more of a vertical threat. Ironically, that's what he did at SMU. But he has been the ultimate playmaker type. His average depth of target is remarkably low in Kansas City, and that's not going to change with all the other receivers there being more vertical threats. But super tough dude. I just don't see him ever being the guy that you're like, oh, he's our number 1. We're set. Maybe you could argue with Michael Pittman, but I think Pittman is shown more as an X wide receiver winning balls on the perimeter than Rashee Rice. So I'm going to go Rashee Rice right there. Rashid Shaheed, pretty easy one here. He is in the conversation with Pierce, Watson, and Shaheed here as who are the best true vertical threats in the league. Both him and Watson have had a lot of durability concerns. I think I'd take a healthy Watson over him, and both these guys have had a hard time staying healthy. So we'll go there. Rashad Bateman, firmly a starting caliber possession wide receiver, one of the better ones in this category. I would take him over Josh Palmer, and I would take him over Hollywood Brown. He is not a true number 2, but he's a very capable starter. But probably not consistent enough in terms of production and ball skills for me to put him with like a Rashee Rice or like a Jacoby Myers or something like that, and doesn't quite have the speed to be like a, Jameson Williams, Darnell Mooney, something like that. So top of the tier for now. Ray McLeod, just find Olamide Zaccheaus and put him next to him. Those two guys I feel like pretty interchangeable as gadget slot guys. Ricky Pearsall, again, very glad we made this tier because I don't know that Ricky is necessarily like, going to shoot up and be a true number 1, but I think he can absolutely be something like what Jordan Addison feels like right now, for example, as a very good separator, kind of like a Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy maybe. I really like Ricky Pearsall. I think he's shown some really good stuff this year. I think I probably put him... Honestly, I'm going to put Burden over Coleman and Pearsall over Burden. Just slight preference there. But I do like all the guys in that category to keep climbing. Roman Wilson, unfortunately, probably still have to treat him as a prospect. And at this point, I don't know that I'm even buying him. Like the fact that he couldn't carve out more of a role in that offense that I think fits his play style. I think, my pro comp on him was something like Randall Cobb. He hasn't developed with Rodgers in that setup. I don't know, man. I'm not really buying Roman Wilson right now. I'd put him near the top of this group, but in that group nonetheless. Rome Odunze, he goes up here, probably somewhere in this group, right? This is going to get heated with Packers and Bears fans here. I don't know that Rome ever did have realistic number 1 potential. In this category, we have guys that do still have number 1 potential, but is it more realistic that they'll be number 2s or they're just more unproven? There's a split there for a reason. I don't think he's up here with these guys. I really like what we've seen from him this year. Felt like he really settled in late last year. I still think he's heading in a very good trajectory. I'm just not quite ready to put him up here, but I think at the top of this group is the right spot for Rome. And then we got Romeo Doubs. Very impressed with Romeo Doubs this year. Dangerously so. I'm going to drop him there for now. So Doubs can win to all 3 levels in terms of separation. He's decent after the catch. Not great after the catch, but decent after the catch. Amazing release off the line of scrimmage. But his hands have been so freaking inconsistent. So many drops throughout his career. But this year, this dude really seems to have developed. I could see him being a number 2. Kind of somewhere between Darnell Mooney and Jerry Jeudy someday. But I'm not quite comfortable to do that. If we did this in a month and he keeps playing like he's doing right now, this might change, and we might just see him up here. I mean, Doubs has really looked... He's been such a pleasant surprise for Green Bay, because I thought with Golden coming in, Doubs was going to be kind of an afterthought, contract year. No, man, like he has really had his best start to a season, certainly. Ryan Flournoy, fun prospect, has had a couple of good moments in the last couple of weeks. Probably not buying him at this point, but he's fascinating. It's a little early for him kind of coming out of nowhere, putting himself on the map. Super physically gifted player. I'm going to put him at the very top of this prospect group that I'm probably selling. But I'm intrigued. I'm going to put him behind Mitchell. I still think Mitchell has so much talent. If Mitchell got traded somewhere else, I would move him up. But Flournoy and Doubs back to back there, it's kind of like a lot going on recently. I would like to redo this video near the end of the season and see where we're at. Those will be a couple players that'll be fun to follow. Okay, Savion Williams, I love him as a return man, but I'm just not buying him as an actual wide receiver talent. If Green Bay just up and moved him to running back, my opinion would change. But I just don't really see a true wide receiver skill set there in terms of route running and ball skills. Him and Malik Washington probably in a similar cluster there. Stephon Diggs, excellent year he's having. He's at least a true number 2 guy, but I think he probably belongs like right behind Devontae Adams, frankly. Like he is showing that the Patriots can absolutely survive with him as your number 1. He doesn't quite have the twitch and athletic juice that he once did, but he's been like mostly back. He has really impressed me. I was kind of betting against Stephon Diggs returning to form at his age coming off the leg injury, but a lot of credit to him for fighting through that and bouncing back. Ty Felton, honestly, he's a prospect I'm probably selling unless the Vikings trade Jordan Addison and you get more of an opportunity for Felton. But I thought he was drafted a little bit early. I don't know, man. I just don't really see him turning into much more than like what Jalen Nailor is today. But even if he turns into that, it's not like I'm really buying stock of Ty Felton. I would probably put him in between Washington and Savion. Okay, Tank Dell. He's a unique conversation where you would put him. It's almost like Tank Dell and Tyreek Hill need their own tier. Let's do that. I mean, it's already huge. Why not make another one? Underneath true number 2 guy, I'm going to add a row, and that row is going to be, will they ever play again? I mean, honestly, Tank Dell and Tyreek Hill are going to go in this category. I mean, you can do the math on that. I mean, Tyreek Hill, crazy leg injury at his age, guy that's been so dependent on speed in his career. Tank Dell, at that small frame, can his body hold up? I mean, good players when healthy, but very unique conversations with those 2 guys. Glad we could kind of bang those 2 out. And then we got T. Higgins. I mean, he is, I think, absolutely like the can survive as your number 1. I would probably put him, I think, between Adams and Diggs. Even if Diggs and Adams are kind of at similar points in their career, I think Higgins belongs in the middle there. I don't think Higgins is the dynamic player in terms of complete route tree or run after catch to be a true number 1 guy. But absolutely, if in a different situation, if he was a number 1 and you had a good group of skill sets around him, I think you'd be just fine. All right, Terry McLaurin, shoot him up to the true number 1 category. I don't think Terry's an alpha. He's slightly more one-dimensional. Like, he's clearly at his best as a vertical threat, but he's got that breakaway speed too. That's really nice, like after the catch. I think I would put Terry. I really do have a lot of respect for what he did in Washington last year. Ayuk just feels high here, man, doesn't it? It's just hard because Ayuk was this guy when he was healthy. He's such a hard player to place because it just doesn't feel like that guy's coming back. I mean, it's almost like, do you put him down here? But that's too harsh. I don't know what to do with Brandon Ayuk, man. I almost wish I could just take him off this list, but I think I would still take Terry over these guys. Again, he's got to get back out there, but all right, T-Mac. At worst, he's in here. The question is, does he go? I think you got to put T-Mac up here, dude. Like he passes every single eye test. Unbelievable prospect. I mean, if Marv goes up here, like I think T-Mac can be up here. I'll put him at the bottom of the tier, but this is me kind of pounding the table for T-Mac. Like, has he established himself as a better player than Jalen Waddle or Jameson Williams? No, but God, this guy is one of the best wide receiver prospects I've ever seen. I mean, think about what I said about Drake London and Mike Evans. Those 2 guys get compared a lot, but it's like, well, Mike Evans a little more stiff, more of a vertical threat. Drake London, crazy, shifty, and dynamic for a big guy. I think T-Mac has the best of both of those abilities. He has some of the highest potential I've ever seen for a wide receiver, and he has, in a pretty rough situation in Carolina, looked like that dude all the way through. So I'm gonna stand by him up there. All right, Tez Johnson, very interesting prospect. Not ready to put him any higher than a prospect, but I'm kind of buying Tez, man. He's getting open, he's catching the ball, he's got a quarterback that can pin it on him. I like Tez to at least be, at least climb up to be something like this, I guess. But I don't know. He's a very interesting player in terms of upside because of his physical. He's 156 pounds and he's not that fast, but had a great play against the Niners to help seal that win. So it's like if he's showing a little upside there, maybe he's more than just a number 4. But yeah, I think prospect category makes sense for him. Tez Walker is a prospect, vertical threat in Baltimore. Just kind of a guy I don't really believe in, frankly. I don't know that he's got the requisite ball tracking and ball skills to make it as a true vertical threat. Probably belongs with like Jordan Watkins, 4th round pick, vertical threat that hasn't really shown much. Jalen Hyatt, like kind of right in that category. Torrey Horton, still a prospect, has shown a lot of flashes. I think you put him, because of the opportunity, I think you probably put him right near the top. I mean, was drafted below Pat Bryant, but the opportunity is going to be higher for him. Marvin Mims. I'll put him below Marvin Mims. But yeah, Torrey Horton can absolutely emerge as, like a Darius Slayton type or, one of these quality starting players. He's looking like a nice draft pick, but I'm going to drop him right there. Okay, Travis Hunter. Unfortunately for Travis Hunter, he has to go in this group right now. He just hasn't been used enough. He's only seen a few down the field targets. I mean, honestly, I'll still put him over Matthew Golden, but it's very close for me. I think Golden's ahead of Travis Hunter as far as separating down the field and as a route runner. I think ball skills also, I mean, Travis Hunter has the elite ball skills, but Matthew Golden has kept pace in terms of not having drops and winning tough catches. But Travis Hunter after the catch is so special. It's kind of tough to... I mean, I definitely had a higher grade on Hunter than I did Odunze. I'll put Hunter at the top of this tier. Thinking everything out loud. Still believe in him, but he doesn't have the production of either of these guys at this point. Okay, Trey Harris. Definitely got to put him in the prospect category. 2nd round type of guy. I would put him at the very top of this. Hasn't had a lot of opportunities, but I still think his talent with Justin Herbert has a path to working, especially once like Keenan Allen's out of the picture and Trey is more of a focal point of the passing game. He hasn't really shown too many deficiencies, just the opportunities haven't been there. Trey Tucker, he gets a big shout out here. He has looked like this type of guy this year. I think he's absolutely climbing up that way. I don't know that he's quite earned it yet. I'd maybe put him there with like Cedric Tillman. I see a lot of Tyler Lockett in Trey Tucker. Can win down the field, super shifty dude in his routes and after the catch. I've been really impressed by him to be more than this cluster of guys. So yeah, I'm gonna put him in that category. He's still ascending, still a young guy. Okay, Troy Franklin, definitely a prospect. Probably not I'm buying Pat Bryant and Marvin Mims more than I am Troy Franklin. Not that Troy Franklin's going to be like forever useless or anything like that. Now, I'm putting him towards the top of the group that I'm selling. But God, these Broncos receivers are so freaking hard because Franklin did have a couple of really good games in there and then he disappeared. So, it's screw it. I'm just going to put these 3 guys next to each other because they're all talented dudes. Franklin's he's the one that's actually showed like bad tape at times. Like he's had some pretty frustrating drops, but he's also probably shown more upside than those other 2 guys. So he's really hard. Definitely all 3 of those guys are still prospects for Denver. Tutu Atwell, he deserves some love as a legitimate starting caliber vertical threat, kind of like Calvin Austin. He's been injured a little bit this year, but when the Rams call his number, he can change games with his speed. So he deserves some love as a starting caliber player. Tyler Lockett, honestly, man, this hurts, but he is now down there with where like Brandon Cooks is. He just can't really produce for Tennessee right now. There's not any juice left. He's regressed in his years in Seattle in years past. Sucks to do it to Tyler Lockett, but it's where he's at. Tyquan Thornton, I think you put him in the vertical threat category. He's still, I don't know how much we trust him. Maybe more than Calvin Austin. Both those guys, kind of interesting mid-round picks. I think that makes sense. Wan'Dale Robinson, he goes towards the top of the gadget slot tier. I mean, he is absolutely in that category. I'm not ready to say he's a number 2 guy or anything like that, but he is kind of the definition of your gadget slot. Xavier Legette. What do we do with Xavier Legette? And does he belong in this category? It feels harsh. He's come alive a little bit as of late. I just don't know, man. I genuinely don't know. I like his overall like persona. I love the upside. He's flashed some really good stuff, not just some tough catches, but like the some of the route running that he has shown on like out routes and stuff. I don't think he's established enough to be there. This one's like, I really am not ready to make a conclusion on him because he's so inconsistent. But if I had to at this point in time, I'm probably selling Xavier Legette, sadly. All right, Xavier Worthy. I think this again, this group has really filled out with a lot of guys. He belongs in this group. He's done a lot of stuff. I'm taking Golden over him. I just think he's the more complete player. I think Worthy could become like Jamison Williams or Jalen Waddle, something like that. I'd put him over Pearsall. He's made some tough catches. I got to give him that. I feel pretty confident with him behind those 3 prospects, but obviously, we'll see how that all plays out with those young guys. Zay Flowers. Zay's my dude, man. I think Zay is up here with the can survive as your number 1 category, and I'm gonna put him above Stephon and below T. Higgins. He has his limitations in terms of size. He has certainly not produced like an alpha, but he absolutely can threaten to all 3 levels. He can be a vertical threat. He can dominate from the slot, inside and out. I feel confident that you can be just fine with him as your number 1. And if we see a more consistent, productive season from him, he could even get up into this category for me, but I'm pretty cozy with him right there for now. All right, last player, Zay Jones. Not the most exciting player to finish on, but he's ideally a number 4. He's going to go behind his teammate there, Greg Dortch. But, wow, we did it. And we did it in under 2 hours, 138 players. I mean, I really like how we worked through this. I hope you guys enjoyed the long form breakdown of this one. Other positions, I'm not going to have quite as many players. Wide receiver is such a deep pool of talent that it was a fun one to start with, but definitely going to be the longest one. But I'm really happy with how this turned out. It's obviously not so like perfectly cookie cutter. There's going to be a couple guys that had to go in a tier because they fit that description better than a different one. Like, no, I don't think Darnell Mooney's better than Tyreek Hill, but I'm taking Waddle and Rice over Hill and Dell. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think the nuanced conversation side of this is much more valuable and productive than if I were to just come out and try to rank these guys 1 through 138, because we would run into other problems there too with like different skill sets and that kind of stuff. So I hope you guys did appreciate this, and you guys, of course, will have to chime in with your comments, how you think I did, what do you think of this tier maker, and share your own as well. This template is up there on the tier maker website. I think if you search my Twitter, it's at @TFG_football. That should work. But enough yapping. Let's get out of here. Please do hit that like button on the way out if you did enjoy. And make sure you subscribe, because my goal is to do a tier maker for every position in the NFL. So very much looking forward to that. This was a ton of fun, and I'll see you guys later. Cheers.